dear, we don't know. We don't know you. Hey, the man who has been there fighting for human rights all his life. The man who, as a person in business, has built solid businesses, including telephony companies, including logistics management companies. You don't want him. So, another party came into power 2008. What happened? We didn't see any action. The people said, oh no, we still like them. 2012, the same thing. Till it got to 2016. And the people themselves said, what a mistake we made. What a mistake we made. And they went to the polls. The rest is history. But do you know why? Because by 2016, all those years that we thought we had given to somebody to fix this country, they rather took it further down. We first found oil somewhere 2010, 2011. We poured oil, and Ghana had one of the fastest growth rates. And the first year we poured oil, 14%. We had people who were managing this economy. They had all the resources. And what happened? Year by year, the economy started going down, 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 down. And they thought that it was a joke. You didn't have enough money to supply fuel for energy, so we had doomsaw. Almost 5 years of doomsaw. Lives were lost. Businesses were lost. Hopes were crushed. Hearts were broken. In fact, that story is sad. To the extent, by 2016, when we went to the polls, the people spoke. And they spoke rightly. But it's not just that. Since then, this same man who has put himself out to fight for our rights decided that he was going to build a wonderful house. And I use this example. He was going to build a beautiful big mansion called Ghana. And he was not going to get aid from anybody. He would use our own resources, our own energy, our own thinking to build this house. And he built a solid foundation. A solid foundation that was unshakable. And today, he's saying that on top of this foundation, we are going to put in a superstructure. A superstructure where all of us will have a room. No one will be left behind. Nobody will stay on the streets. Nobody will suffer from doing so. Nobody will suffer from illiteracy. Nobody will suffer from poor health. And somebody says, oh, please, let me come back. The same person who, when given the opportunity, brought this country to his knees with doomsaw, stopped paying allowances to student nurses, even started making students in universities start paying utility bills because they couldn't pay enough to have our energy on. Businesses collapsed. And they were searching for money they couldn't find. So they had to tax everything under the... If you moved, tax. If you breathe, tax. And they said they want to do what? Come again. What should we tell them? What should we tell them? What should we tell them? No way. We have built that foundation. We are going to build that beautiful house. But let me break it down again. Before 2017, this country was in distress. The same people we gave the opportunity for 8 years. 8 years. And they have ruled this country more than anybody else. 8 years. What did they do? They brought Ghana to its knees. Our international reputation went down. People's businesses went down. People's families were crushed. People couldn't go to school because they couldn't afford it. By the time that it was time to go to school, people had to go around borrowing money from everywhere, selling all their things, even their goats they had to sell because they wanted their kids to go to school. And Nanado comes and he says, wait a minute. As for me, I'm not looking at just coming to do one thing, do the other thing, do that. I'm come to build a house. I'm come to build a house with a solid foundation. I'm come to build a house on which you build all the rooms that everybody will not be left behind. And I'm not just going to look at things one by one. I'm putting everything together. The first thing is, first of all, Our people must be educated because it has been shown everywhere in the world that without education, we are not going to go anywhere. And then those people who we kicked out in 2016, they said, no, it can't be done. They paid money for people to campaign against free secondary high school education. Abba. Why? Is it hatred for the man, or clearly you do understand the concept? Either way, you blast. So Nanado comes. He says, well, this house, like an architect, when he draws a house, he doesn't draw a room and leave it. He says, I'll do the foundation. I'll build the house on it. I'll design the rooms. I'll design the kitchen. I'll design the sitting room. I'll put in the bedrooms. I'll put in windows, and I'll put in the roof. So he said, let's build a solid transformation agenda. An agenda that will leave no one behind. But to do that, first of all, we have to make sure that our people had jobs. So watch this. He said, okay, they can have jobs, but we just don't want jobs. We want better paying jobs. We want jobs that people can live on. So he said, okay, let's design a system so that everybody will have a chance to go to school. Because he realized that the inability of people to go to school was because they couldn't pay for it. They didn't have access. So he says, let's create a system where at least everybody from Bonkrugu Yoyo to Axim to Inzulezu to Zogagope to Elubo, everywhere, every child will have the chance of going to school. So he said, let's do the one policy called free senior high school. And let's build quality on it. Such that in the next 5 to 10 years, the minimum education of the average Ghanaian will be secondary school education. Can you imagine what that would do for us? Even trotro drivers, even the mates who have secondary high school education. But that was not all. He says, well, we are just not educating people to be educated for education's sake. It's because we want to provide them jobs. But in the process of giving them jobs, we want to make sure that this country moves from where it is. Because as it was, Ghana was sinking further and further and further into a third world country. And that was not going to create jobs nor create wealth for its people. So he says, as we are training our people and giving them better education, let's also make sure that we change the economy. Because in the past, we're just exporting our gold, exporting our cocoa beans, exporting our bauxite, exporting our manganese. And it wasn't bringing us money. So what do? Instead of just exporting like that, let's add value to these things. In economics, they say something that once you add value to it, you go further up the value chain. That means you get more money. And so in his mind, he says, how can we do this? The best idea was to do a policy where we had a policy of one district, one factory. Now, this one district, one factory, it wasn't like this, leave it and let everybody who has money build a factory. He decided that every district, all the 260 districts in this country, will have a factory. Now, why? Because he wanted to make sure that everybody could participate in the economy and you democratize the economy. Now, guess what? You build a factory in some corner in the country. What happens? It's not just that you get factory hands. You get people training for management. You get people training to be accountants. You get people even cooking food for the factory workers. You get people who will be doing haulage. You get people who will be doing sales. What does it mean? You are creating jobs for everybody in that district. But he didn't finish there. He says, as we are training people and giving them high quality jobs, we also have to make sure that people can eat. And one of our big problems was that we didn't have food security. Can you imagine that by the end of 2016, Ghana, with all our 13 million hectares of acres of arable land, we were importing at a minimum of $2 billion of food every year. 2 billion. Can you imagine if we even just invested 1 billion? What would have happened? So he said, let's add another policy that will make sure that first we build food security and that everybody can buy food and achieve food security. So he brought in planting for food and jobs. But he didn't leave it there. He said, planting for food and jobs, you might as well add another one, planting for export and rural development, because a lot of the agriculture was in the rural areas. But that was just not all, because we just not eat cassava, plantain, corn. He said, let's add some so we can eat more chicken, more beef, more fish. So he says, rearing for food and jobs as well. And what do we have? Now you see the house coming up. He's built the sitting room, he's built the kitchen, he's built the bedrooms. But he said it's not all. We need to ensure that people's health are guaranteed.